Welcome to The Explainer. Let's just jump right in, shall we? Because look, whether your ultimate endgame is becoming a master stock trader, a savvy value investor, a real estate mogul, a CEO, or a startup founder, it all boils down to one absolutely critical thing: a highly optimized mindset. If you're just sitting around hoping life hands you a lucky break, yeah, that's a seriously flawed plan. True wealth creation starts the second you take full responsibility for your own actions, and more importantly, your own thoughts. So today, we're unpacking exactly how you can optimize your chances of building serious wealth using a genuinely legendary blueprint. All right, here is our roadmap for today's journey to mastery. We're heading 5 massive concepts. First, the power of thought. Second, creating a burning desire. Third, the habit of persistence. Fourth, harnessing sexual energy. And fifth, conquering your 6 fears. It's a progressive path, right? We're building from the ground up, starting with your internal mental foundations and taking it all the way to defeating those invisible enemies and fears that kind of hold you back in the dark. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the power of thought. Your mind as the ultimate asset. This is step 1 of our blueprint, and it introduces a pretty radical foundational idea. Literally all earned riches and all massive achievements, they have to start purely as an idea, just a single thought. Now I want you to really chew on this question for a second. If you don't see riches in your thoughts, how on earth can you expect them to ever show up in your bank account? It sounds almost too simple, right? But it is deeply profound. You have this unique ability to control your own mind, simply because you alone decide what thoughts you feed it. And make no mistake about it, if you don't conquer yourself, you will absolutely be conquered by yourself. Take a look at this famous thesis from Napoleon Hill. Truly, thoughts are things, and powerful things at that, when they are mixed with definiteness of purpose. Basically, a thought, when backed by a really strong desire, literally tends to transmute itself into its physical equivalent. But, this is a total double-edged sword. If you don't deliberately plant productive thoughts into your subconscious, it doesn't just sit there doing nothing. It's going to unintentionally pick up stray, unhelpful impulses from the world around you. You just cannot leave this to chance. Think about it. Every single truly great leader in history was, at their core, a dreamer. Look at Muhammad Gandhi, George Washington, Martin Luther King. How did they actually succeed? They didn't just stumble their way into the history books. Every single movement started with an idea. They succeeded precisely because they were dreamers who deeply, fundamentally understood how to harness the immense power of that initial thought. Moving on to Section 2, creating a burning desire, demanding physical manifestation. As powerful as thoughts are, the universe completely ignores vague, lukewarm wishes. It only responds to absolute determination. There's this incredible historical anecdote that perfectly captures this. A long time ago, a great warrior was facing an enemy army that vastly outnumbered his own troops. When his men arrived on enemy shores, the warrior gave this completely shocking order. He told his men to burn all their own ships right there on the beach. He literally destroyed their only safety net. They had absolutely no choice left but to win. And guess what? They won. That is the ultimate burning ships mentality. The crucial takeaway here is this: God seems to throw himself on the side of the man who knows exactly what he wants if he's determined to get just that. Look, if you walk down the street and ask 100 people what they want, they'll probably vaguely mumble something about, wanting more money or fame or security. But if you ever plan on reaching higher than average mediocrity, you have got to attach an intense, do-or-die burning desire to your goals. So how do we actually systematically do that? Well, here is a highly tactical 6-step method for wealth creation. 1. Fix a very specific amount of money in your mind. 2. Determine exactly what you're going to give in return for it. 3. Establish a definite date. 4. Create a rock-solid plan and start acting on it right away. 5. Write all of this down in a clear, concise statement. And 6. Read it out loud twice daily, once in the morning and right before you go to sleep. This last step is called autosuggestion. You know how if you tell a story enough times, you actually start to believe it yourself? It uses that exact same psychological mechanism. But it's designed to build absolute, unshakable faith inside you that your burning desire is going to come true. Section 3, the habit of persistence, facing the reality of hard work. We are now entering the real crucible of our blueprint, because this is exactly where your newly minted burning desire crashes headfirst into the harsh reality of execution. Let me share this legendary story about the impossible engine. So Henry Ford went to his engineering team and demanded that they replace their current four-cylinder motors with eight-cylinder ones. And, crucially, they had to be cast in a single block. Well, his engineers repeatedly told him that this was scientifically and mechanically impossible. They insisted it just couldn't be done. But Ford, he just issued the ultimate command. He looked right at them and said, "Go right ahead, I want it and I'll have it." He basically ordered them to stay on the job until they succeeded, no matter how much time it took. So they worked day and night, came back, and again said, "Hey, it's impossible." He just told them to keep going. Eventually, realizing Ford literally did not know when he was beaten, the engineers magically found a way to do it. The lesson here is massive. No one is ever truly defeated until they accept that defeat is reality in their own mind. Let's really lock this idea in. A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. Cultivating the habit of persistence is your ultimate insurance policy against failure. The text actually says that persistence is to the character of a man what carbon is to steel. It's the hardening agent, you know? Sometimes it might look like other people succeed without putting in the work or paying the price, but trust me, that is an illusion. The grass is not greener. You just have to stick to your plan and persist. All right, Section 4, Harnessing Sexual Energy, the most surprising secret to success. We're going to shift the tone a bit here to introduce what is easily the most surprising and frankly intense takeaway from the source material. It's all about fundamentally redirecting our most primal human drives. According to the text, there are 5 strongest stimulants known to humanity. They are friendship, music, a burning desire for riches, love, and finally, sex. The desire for sex is identified as the single most powerful of all human desires. I mean, we're talking about a force so overwhelmingly potent that it supposedly started the Trojan War. The text points out that men who have reached the absolute highest levels of achievement throughout history have consistently had highly developed sexual natures. So, how exactly does this apply to building wealth? Well, it's through a fascinating concept called transmutation. Transmutation is essentially redirecting the immense energy from a desire for physical contact and channeling it into actionable creativity and genius in other areas. We are talking about using extreme willpower, forming entirely new habits, and stripping away old behaviors to funnel that raw biological energy into creative output. If you don't harness it, the book argues that the majority of people actually lower themselves to the status of lower animals by misusing this great force. The trick is to channel that energy upward. Section 5. Conquering your 6 fears. Defeating the invisible enemies in your mind. This is it, the final boss of our wealth creation journey. Before you can put any of this philosophy into practice, you absolutely have to destroy the invisible mental barriers that exist purely in your own head. Let's break down the first 3 ghosts of fear. First up is the fear of poverty. The symptom here is a lack of ambition or just a general indifference to money. The cure? You have to make an absolute decision that whatever you acquire, as long as you give it your absolute all, is sufficient. Second is the fear of criticism. The symptom is getting incredibly nervous around others, which totally destroys your initiative. And the cure for this one is amazing. You just have to dare to be a little bit cringy sometimes. Seriously, stop worrying about what other people have to say. Third is the fear of ill health. The symptom is faking an illness to excuse your own laziness. The cure? Please stop Googling your symptoms, because as we all know, literally any symptom can seem deadly if you spend enough time on the internet. Now let's tackle the final 3 fears. Fourth is the fear of the loss of love, and the main symptom for that one is jealousy. The cure is learning to genuinely appreciate living by yourself. Build a fantastic life alone, and everything else is just a bonus on top. Fifth is the fear of old age, which usually shows up as constantly apologizing for your age. The cure? Start treating it as a blessing of wisdom and self-control, and fully embrace the absolute wonders of compound interest that only time can give you. Finally, the fear of death. The symptom is obsessing over dying instead of actually living. And the cure is delightfully blunt. Just accept the endless nap. Spending your entire existence worrying about wearing a nightgown for eternity simply isn't worth the stress. The big overarching lesson here is that you have to completely kill off these fears by realizing that absolutely nothing life has to offer is worth the price of constant, grinding worry. So I'm going to leave you with this final question to think about. Are you ready to stop worrying and start demanding what you want? Remember, all earned riches start with a simple idea. You now have the blueprint to actually turn that idea into reality. The only question left is, what are you going to build?